The Tekno Scania and Goldhofer XLE combination comes as two separate boxed models, so we'll start by looking at the Scania. It comes in a small Goldhofer branded box, but there's no details about either the wheel tractor or any information about the model or instructions either. But it is nicely wrapped in foam rubber. It comes with a small bag of parts which includes mirrors and roof aerials, and I fitted them on one side of the tractor already, so we'll start by fitting the door mirror on the opposite side, and it's a well-fitting piece that just slots nicely into place. But the roof aerial is a different matter because the hole is too big, so it just drops out. So I just put a little bit of plastic putty on the end, and then that just kind of presses into place. You need to tidy it up a bit so that it looks good, but it kind of works. However, the opposite problem was found with the mirror over the door, and it needed trimming to be able to fit. And lastly, there are two more pieces which just look like small door handles, but there's no obvious place to fit them. The tractor looks smart enough in profile, the graphics are simple, and the tyres and wheel hubs are okay. The detailing on the cab is good, with aerials and air horns and lights and mirrors. At the back the exhausts are good, but perhaps the equipment tower is a bit too shiny, and the rear light cluster is painted. The Scania rolls along quite well, and if we have a look at the wheel arrangement, the rear two driven axles are on a kind of a oscillating suspension mechanism. The detail underneath the model actually is very plain, and the front two axles do have linked steering, but the range of movement is small before the wheels foul the arches. The last feature is the opening hood, although it can't be posed open, and the engine underneath is fairly crudely modelled. The Tekno Scania tractor isn't to the best of modern standards, but it's good enough to be recommended. The Goldhofer XLE trailer comes in a similar Goldhofer branded box, and again inside the parts are all contained within foam rubber. There are three main components to the trailer model. There's a 3-line front bogie section, there's a gooseneck, and there's a 5-line rear bogie which is connected to the spine beam. Also in the box is a bag containing actually quite a lot of small parts, and usefully there's an instruction sheet as well, which is reasonably adequate for assembling the model, although it's not so clear in some places. With all the parts out of the bag, we can begin the assembly, so we'll start by joining the front bogie to the gooseneck, and it kind of clips together, but rather unusually for a model like this, you have a screwed connection, which Tekno have thoughtfully provided a little tiny screwdriver to help with, and that then does produce quite a solid join. Underneath the gooseneck there are some width markers which can be pushed into place, and also some posts on the back of the gooseneck, although as you see there the fit of the parts is not always the best. The other parts to fit are the spare wheel and the lever at the front. Looking at the wheel sets, they're all linked together so that they steer in unison, and that works quite well. And they've also got some very good soft springy suspension, and if you put the unit down you can see how well that kind of moves front and back. There are a couple of items to fit at the back of the trailer. The width markers have to be fitted. One of them wasn't moulded very well on the review model, so it needed a bit of trimming. And there's also the painted orange beacon lights which fit into the rear. In terms of the functionality of the rear end of the trailer, it's similar to the front bogie. The suspension is very good, with each wheel set having good springing, and it has working steering with all the axles linked together. It's quite stiff and it tries to be a little bit proportional, but the range of movement is not huge. Joining the two parts of the trailer is quite straightforward, with the front of the spine beam just hooking over some bars on the rear of the front bogie, and it forms quite a good and solid connection. The kingpin of the gooseneck can then be hooked into the fifth wheel of the tractor, but the Tekno kingpin is quite fat and so it may not fit other model makers' tractors. We now come to the various configurations that are possible, and the first one is to put some deck plates down. So you fold out these little plastic brackets that are along the spine beam, and you have to make sure that the little bracings are fitted as well, which is a little bit fiddly, and then you can lay the plastic deck plates on top of the brackets. The fit is reasonable, although some of them didn't quite fit properly on the review model, so you have to fiddle them a bit to try to get something that looks acceptable. But I think with a little bit of effort and jiggery pokery, you'll be able to pose the model reasonably well. The next option you have is to extend the model out, and it becomes really quite impressive when you extend the deck, and it reaches about 70 centimeters in length. And you can either have it as a spine beam, or again you can put deck plates down. The first thing you do is to fit the clips to the spine, and at the front there's a couple of pieces to install, and then you can lay the deck plates. Again, you might have to fiddle with them a bit to get them to lay evenly and look right, but when you've done that, you do get quite an impressive looking model. And the only parts that are left over are two small replica pieces of timber, and it's not really clear where they go, so when in doubt, stick them in the gooseneck. There is one last configuration option, which is to just have a short low loader, and that's without the front bogie section, and you can just connect the rear part of the trailer directly to the gooseneck and then onto the tractor to form a shorter vehicle. The Goldhofer trailer has some good detailing. The deck plates look quite realistic with their wood finish, and some of the details on the bogies are quite nice too in terms of the graphics and some of the other aspects. But the strength of the model is in the flexibility of configuration and the different poses that can be set up. Although the model engineering of the trailer is not quite the best, it's easy to recommend.